My daughter-in-law humiliated me online, calling me senile, unstable, an old man losing his grip. Her post was clearly designed to turn the whole neighborhood against me. I could see the comments piling up, sympathy pouring in for her, as if she was the victim. Then, out of nowhere, a stranger replied under her post, "I know her secrets. Want proof?" I hesitated for hours. Then I clicked. What followed wasn't just proof. It was a landslide. Emails, screenshots, receipts. It was all there. I released the evidence. Not out of revenge. At least that's what I told myself. But to defend my name. Now, she's begging me to stop. She showed up with tears in her eyes, pleaded for forgiveness. A day later, her profile disappeared. But what she doesn't know is, that was just the beginning. Before we dive deeper, subscribe to the channel. And hey, tell me in the comments what time it is where you are right now. It started on a quiet morning. I was in my home office sipping coffee when it happened. The cup slipped, fell and shattered. Dark liquid streaked across the hardwood floor. But I couldn't bring myself to clean it. I was frozen. My eyes were locked on the screen. Her post was glowing in front of me like a digital slap. Sometimes tough love is necessary. Gordon's mental decline is getting worse, and his erratic behavior is making things difficult for everyone. Someone had to say it. Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments. Neighbors, old friends, all nodding along, saying how hard it must be for her. For her. Not a single one reached out to ask if it was true. I reread it again, then again. But the words never changed. My own family had just put me on public trial, without notice, without a chance to respond. Shaw, my son's wife, the woman I once welcomed into this family with open arms. I called her. Voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. The third time she ignored it completely. I set the phone down gently, stared at the blank screen. My reflection looked back, tired eyes, gray hair, disbelief etched into every line of my face. Was this really what I had become? A man so easily dismissed? The coffee had started to soak into the floorboards. I knew I should clean it, but I couldn't move. My heart pounded. The stress clawed at my chest. Not again, I thought. Not after the heart attack 2 years ago. I tried to breathe. I stood and paced to the window. From here, I could see Enz's perfectly manicured yard. Their house glistened in the sunlight, like a trophy she was showing off to the world. And then it hit me. This wasn't a random attack. It was calculated. Just yesterday we'd argued. She came marching over with that clipboard and smug smile, wielding her LA authority like a sword. "Gordon, driveway rules apply to everyone. 2 cars only. I have 3 grandkids visiting on weekends. Where do you expect them to park? Visual clutter hurts property values." She replied coldly. I should have known then. This wasn't about parking. It was about control. When I stood my ground, she didn't back off. She just shifted tactics, from enforcing petty rules to character assassination. And my son, he stood behind her, literally, silent. When I turned to him, all he said was, "Dad, maybe we can find a compromise." The compromise, Heinz had cut in, is following the rules like everyone else. He nodded. That nod hurt more than her words. I returned to the screen. More comments. Neighbors siding with her. Even Mrs. Peterson, someone I helped move into this neighborhood years ago. "Hang in there, dear. Elderly parents are hard." The betrayal was surgical. But she miscalculated. I'm not senile. I'm not broken. I built half this neighborhood with my own hands. Bridges, schools, roads, all designed and delivered on schedule. I know how to solve problems. And I never walk away from a challenge. Heinz had declared war with a smile and a Facebook post. I closed the laptop calmly. She wanted to play games. Fine, I know the rules now. The house was quiet, but my mind raced. Every step I took felt heavier. Sarah's photo, my late wife, watched silently from the bookshelf. Her loss still fresh. Would she have believed this betrayal? Or seen it coming? I dropped into the recliner she bought me just months before the cancer took her. Pressed my palms to my face. This wasn't just about a post. This was about erasure. Heinz wanted to make me invisible, to repaint the narrative where she was the respectable leader and I was a relic of the past. But she forgot something. I still know how to build, and I still know how to tear things down. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw what she posted. "You should see what I've got." A few neighbors sent messages of support, but one stuck out. Hang in there, Gordon. Some of us see the truth. Martin Keller. Martin, the quiet IT guy from 3 houses down who always grumbled about the HOA's heavy-handedness, had reached out privately instead of posting for show. That was telling. Discreet, smart, and dangerous in the best way. I slid my phone into my pocket and grabbed my keys. Enough thinking. Time to act. It was a 3-minute walk to Inz's place at my usual pace. Long enough to plan, short enough to get there before my anger curdled into recklessness. I'd managed construction sites and impossible clients for decades. This was simply another project demanding tools and tactics, not tantrums. The morning air smelled of jasmine from Mrs. Chen's yard and diesel from the school bus route. Everything around me went on as if my world hadn't just been rearranged. I counted the steps 50, 100. Jasper's sedan sat neatly in the driveway beside Inz's white SUV, both parked within the exact limits she'd lectured me about the day before. The symmetry was almost comedic. Their porch looked immaculate: pressure, washed concrete, spotless panes, floral displays that belonged in magazines. Perfection that required vigilance. My finger hovered over the doorbell for a long moment. Once I rang, there'd be no retreat, no pretending the post never existed. The chime sounded. The door opened to Inz in immaculate khakis, and a blouse so white it hurt the eyes. Her hair was arranged as if she'd been primping for hours, not minutes. She tilted her head in that practiced expression of concern. "Oh, Gordon, what brings you by this morning?" Her tone was syrupy. "You know why I'm here," I said evenly. "Take down the post." She blinked with fake innocence. "What post?" she asked, as if she genuinely didn't know what she'd posted for the entire neighborhood to see. "The one calling me senile. The one with 300+ likes 20 minutes ago," I said. Her mask never slipped. She waved a hand away like it was nothing. "I was simply sharing my honest concerns about family matters," she said. "Surely you support free speech." "Free speech doesn't excuse defamation." My voice stayed low. I watched as her smile tightened. Before she could mount another performance, Jasper appeared in the hallway behind her, rumpled clothes and a resigned look. He put himself slightly to her side like a shield. "Dad, let's talk calmly," he said, as if calmness could erase the post. "Calm." The word struck me as absurd. "You watch your wife humiliate me and your response is calm." He swallowed. "She's worried about neighborhood standards. Maybe there's something to that." "You mean maybe I'm senile?" I felt heat rise despite myself. Inz put a hand on Jasper's arm as if to steady him, then smiled a smile meant to disarm. "This reaction is exactly why people are concerned about emotional regulation," she said. It landed like a calculated blow. She had engineered the confrontation and was now using my outrage as confirmation of her narrative. A perfect trap. I took a step back. "Very clever," I said. The words seemed to make Jasper's jaw set. Even Inz's composure flickered for a heartbeat. "What do you mean?" she asked. I looked at my son. The boy I'd taught to ride a bike. The man I'd put through college, now standing beside his wife as if his loyalty had been sold. "You just taught me, both of you," I said. "You showed me who you really are." I turned away slowly and walked down the steps. Jasper called after me, half guilty, half commanding, "Don't be dramatic, Dad." I stopped on the driveway and faced them in the doorway one last time. "Truth hurts," I said. "We'll see who it hurts more in the end." The walk back felt different. No longer aimless anger, but methodical purpose. Inz had thrown the first blow with social media and sympathy. She didn't know she'd picked a fight with a man whose life's work was solving problems and, if necessary, dismantling failures piece by piece. I replayed the confrontation in my head, turning each detail into a plan. Their front door shut behind them with that decisive click people use to mark things finished. Let her bask in likes and supportive comments for now, I thought. It would be brief. Home welcomed me with modesty. The coffee stain in my office waited, trivial and fixable. The real work began elsewhere. I made my way to the library Sarah had insisted remain a sanctuary. Floor to ceiling shelves, engineering manuals and dog-eared novels, photo albums chronicling 4 decades. I pulled Steinbeck's East of Eden from the shelf. because its worn cover was familiar, and because I needed the steady rhythm of another writer's sentences. But the words blurred. 5 years I built this family, I said aloud to the empty room. Sarah's framed photograph watched from the mantel. Her presence felt as sharp as ever. She would have seen Inz's manipulation in an instant, would have cut through it with that wry, decisive wit she kept for moments like this. Where was my son's conscience? 40 years of trying to teach him right from wrong, and now he chose posture over principle. The betrayal tasted bitter, but the bitterness hardened into resolve. I set the book aside. Outside, Inz's house gleamed under the sun, a monument to curated excellence. Inside, my modest single-story home felt like the last true thing left to defend. I rolled up my sleeves. If she'd elected to start a campaign, she would find it met with the same relentless planning and careful execution I'd always used on job sites. I would build a response as deliberate as any structure I'd ever raised. Sarah had told me once, "Don't back down from a fair fight." I found her voice in my chest and let it steady me. Then I began, step by step, turning the outrage into a strategy. I moved back to the window, staring at the short stretch of road that separated my house from theirs. A few dozen paces, close enough to host birthdays. Far enough to lie without having to see the fallout immediately. That distance had shielded her until today. If she wanted a game, fine. She'd just met her opponent. A chime broke through my thoughts. 3 crisp tones from the doorbell, unusually formal for late afternoon. I glanced at the clock. Nearly 500. Unusual time for visitors. I made my way from the library to the front door, footsteps measured. Through the peephole, I saw Martin Keller standing with both hands behind his back, posture rigid, his expression unreadable. Curious timing. "Martin," I said as I opened the door. "Didn't expect company, but you're welcome." He nodded politely. "Saw what your daughter-in-law posted. Completely out of line. Just wanted you to know, some of us aren't buying her story." It was good to hear that. I stepped aside, waving him in. "Coffee. Though I'll warn you, it's been a rough day." "I'll pass," he said, settling into the armchair with precision. "I'm actually here for something more serious. About Inz. She's been embezzling money from the HOA." The words hit like a brick to the chest. I sank into the couch opposite him, eyes narrowed. "That's a bold claim. You have proof." He reached inside his jacket and pulled out a manila folder, handling it with the care of something explosive. 500 just last year. You'll want to see this." The folder felt heavy even before I touched it. My mind, trained for decades in precision and analysis, was already calculating the legal implications: financial misconduct, fraud, maybe even criminal prosecution. "You're sure?" I asked. Martin nodded. "Requested the Shoei's records through homeowner rights laws. Also used, let's just say, some technical expertise." He didn't need to elaborate. IT people like Martin often worked in gray areas of legality. I was curious now. What kind of evidence? Fake invoices, inflated expenses for community improvement that funded her personal shopping, vacation charges filed as business trips, dinners for 2 listed as board meetings. I have screenshots of emails, bank statements, receipts. Everything needed to establish a pattern, an intent. I sat forward, absorbing every word. This wasn't gossip. This was leverage. Martin studied my reaction. "The real question is what you want to do with it." I exhaled slowly. "Let me review everything. I don't act without understanding the whole picture." He nodded, satisfied. "Good. Come by my place at 8. I'll walk you through the full breakdown." 130 Oak, right? I asked. 3 down toward the main road. He stood, folder tucked back inside his jacket. "Fair warning. Some of this evidence came from methods that don't look great on paper. But it's solid. She won't be able to deny it." I gave him a long look. "Why bring this to me?" His eyes hardened. "Same reason you challenged her parking rule nonsense. Someone has to stop her. The difference is, I have tools she didn't see coming." After he left, I stayed in the living room, staring at the fading sunlight painting the walls. In a matter of hours, I'd gone from the neighborhood's supposed burden to the man holding the match that could burn down Inz's paper empire. She had posted online to shame me. Instead, she'd handed me the motivation I needed to dismantle her entire facade. By 7:50, I was locking my front door, folder in hand, heading down the street. The air was filled with the scent of barbecue and evening flowers. Families chatted on porches. Mine sat silent behind me, dinner untouched. Strategy had replaced appetite. Martin opened the door before I could knock twice, and led me into a room that looked nothing like the rest of his modest house. 3 large monitors lit up a wall, each connected to humming towers of hardware. Neat cable bundles ran like veins through the setup. "Welcome to Mission Control," Martin said with a smirk. "Officially, I do IT security. Unofficially, I hold people accountable." Impressive. The screens displayed spreadsheets, emails, account summaries, and more. "This is a serious setup." He nodded. "Information is power." And she thought no one was paying attention. He guided me through each piece of evidence. Expense reports labeled as HOA business, cross-referenced with her vacation photos in Cabo. Shopping receipts from boutiques, labeled as community outreach. Restaurant bills on weekends, romantic dates with my son, charged to improvement funds. 15 clear violations, he said. 10 receipts, 5 emails. Solid case. Is this enough to go legal? Absolutely. But trials are slow and full of loopholes. Public exposure gets results faster. What would you recommend? Martin paused. Depends. Do you want her punished, removed, or both? I looked at the evidence laid out like a war map. I want her done. Stripped of every ounce of authority. He nodded, slid a full folder across the table. It's all here. Emails, bank statements, side-by-side analysis showing patterns. Enough to bury her reputation. I held the folder, the weight now far more real. How'd you get the bank records? Martin gave a sly smile. Let's say the HOA system had some security issues I felt obliged to explore. You hacked her. I inspected a broken lock on a public door, he said, carefully. What matters is what we do with what I found. And my son. No sign Jasper knew anything. Inns handles all finances solo. That was a relief. Whatever else had happened, at least Jasper hadn't dipped into the funds. The betrayal belonged to Inns alone. When do we move? I suggest morning, Martin said, checking his watch. Plan carefully. Once it's out, you can't undo it. I left his house with the folder tucked under my arm like a loaded weapon. The street seemed quieter now, each house hiding people who deserved to know the truth. The same social network Inns had used to shame me would now become the megaphone for her downfall. By dawn, she'd regret ever underestimating me. The next morning, sunlight streamed into my office as I laid out the evidence across the desk. I photographed every item, emails, receipts, bank transfers. Every piece carefully annotated, cross-checked. I opened Facebook. Time to turn the tool of my humiliation into the tool of her undoing. Post to my neighbors. I need to share something difficult but necessary. The current HOA leadership has violated our trust. Over the past year, the 12,500 of your dues have been misused for personal travel, shopping, and entertainment. Here's documented proof. Travel receipts for vacations filed as business expenses, designer purchases listed as community supplies, romantic dinners covered by our funds. Every dollar came from your contributions. Funds meant for repairs, landscaping, and safety, spent on luxury and self-indulgence. I attached every photo, bank screenshots, dated receipts, matching social media posts. We deserve accountability. We deserve better. Gordon Shaw. I hit post. Within minutes, the response exploded. Finally! Thank you, Gordon. Mrs. Patterson, we've suspected this for months. Mr. Rodriguez, she needs to resign. Multiple comments echoed the sentiment. Reactions, likes, and shares multiplied. My phone buzzed nonstop. By mid-morning, my post had gone viral, within our local sphere, at least. The truth was out. Then came the banging at my front door. Hard, furious, shaking the frame. I walked slowly, knowing exactly who it would be. Through the peephole, I saw her. Inns, red-faced, trembling. Behind her, Jasper looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. I opened the door calmly. You destroyed me, she screamed, barging past. I'll sue you for slander. For what? Telling the truth? I shut the door behind her and motioned toward the living room. Let's talk like adults. Jasper followed her, silent and pale. Dad, you went too far, he muttered. I turned, looked him in the eye. No, she did. Did I go too far? I asked calmly, easing into my favorite armchair. Jasper paced the room, unsettled. His wife stood rigid, panic slowly creeping into her carefully composed expression. She took over 12,000 from our neighbors, Jasper. Tell me, exactly where would you draw the line when it comes to exposing theft? That's a serious accusation, he snapped. You better have proof. Inz turned toward me, voice brittle with desperation. You can't prove anything. I smiled, slowly, confidently. The kind of smile you wear when you're holding the winning hand. I already have. The whole neighborhood has seen the records, your conference trip. To Cabo. Handbags listed as community improvement expenses, and those phantom maintenance bills for repairs that never happened. Those were legitimate. She shot back, but her voice cracked. Her eyes darted to Jasper, hoping for backup. None came. I kept my tone light, almost pleasant. Planning to hire a lawyer, with what money? The HOA treasury funds you emptied. I'm sure the district attorney will love hearing about those creative spending habits. Enough! Jasper stepped between us, hands raised like a referee in a match spiraling out of control. Let's calm down. Think about the family, Dad. I am thinking about family, I said, voice hardening. That's exactly why I'm doing this. I stood slowly, towering over him. Do you think I'll let her steal from the very people your kids ride bikes past? From seniors on fixed incomes, from neighbors who trusted her? He flinched slightly, but said nothing. She publicly shamed me yesterday, called me senile, embarrassing. Thought I was weak. She was wrong. And Inz's polished facade began to crumble. Her breaths came fast, shallow. The panic was now visible. She was unraveling. This isn't over, she muttered. I have lawyers. I have connections. You have incoming charges, I replied evenly. Martin documented everything. Credit card transactions, emails, falsified invoices. The works. Martin, she breathed, face going pale. What does he have to do with this? Everything. I sat back down calmly, like a man in complete control. You weren't as clever as you thought, Enz. Other people noticed. It's amazing what an IT expert can uncover when he's motivated. Jasper turned toward her, confusion clouding his face. Is this true? He asked. Did you really steal the money? She said nothing. No denials. Just silence. She thought she was untouchable, I explained. Thought no one would question the charming young HOA president. She underestimated us. You'll regret this, Enz hissed, but her words held no weight. I reached slowly for the phone on the side table. A deliberate move. If you show up here again with threats, I'll report you for harassment, and then we'll add legal intimidation to your list of problems. That shut her up. The air turned thick with realization. I didn't need to call. Just the gesture was enough. You can't be serious, she whispered, but her bravado had vanished. I've never been more serious in my life. Yesterday you tried to break me with lies. Today, you'll learn what happens when the truth fights back. Jasper's shoulders slumped. Dad, there has to be another way. Please, think of the grandkids. I raised you better than this, I said coldly. I taught you right from wrong. And now you're asking me to stay silent so she can keep pretending. Silence again. The scandal is hers, I added. Not mine. I just told the truth. Elinza started backing toward the hallway. Less a retreat, more an escape. This isn't over, Gordon, she snapped. I have rights. Yes, I replied calmly. You have the right to remain silent, and the option to resign before the board votes you out, and the chance to repay what you stole before the state presses charges. Criminal charges. Jasper's voice cracked. Embezzlement is a felony, I said. She didn't take lunch money. She siphoned thousands in community funds. That's serious. The words finally landed. Enz's face drained of all color. Jasper stared at her like he didn't recognize the woman beside him. When you're ready to make things right, I said softly. You know where I live. Until then, I suggest legal counsel. They shuffled toward the door, all traces of confidence erased. At the threshold, Jasper turned back. Dad, I didn't know. No, you do. I stepped forward slightly, tone quiet but firm. The only question is what you'll do with that knowledge. I closed the door behind them. The bolt clicked into place like a final gavel strike. Through the window, I watched them walk to their car, in stumbling in heels bought with stolen money, Jasper hovering like a reluctant escort. My phone buzzed with a flood of supportive messages. The neighborhood was waking up and rallying around the truth. The fallout back in my office. The glow of the computer screen illuminated a battlefield won with precision. The post exposing Enz's crimes had gone viral in our local circle. Dozens of likes, comments, shares. Thank you for speaking up. We've had suspicions for months. She needs to be removed immediately, a Mrs. Chen commented. Gordon Shaw has more integrity in his pinky finger than some people have in their whole body. Even neighbors I barely knew were now reaching out with gratitude. Curious, I clicked over to Enz's Facebook profile. User not found. She'd deleted everything. Vanished. Martin's message buzzed in. Profile confirmed deactivated. Full social blackout. Emergency HOA meeting in motion. You started something big. I leaned back in my chair, letting it sink in. This wasn't just personal vindication. It was community justice. The restoration of the garden had become my sanctuary again. Roses blooming in the layout Sarah designed. On the table beside me lay official documents from the HOA. Ease Shaw is hereby removed from all positions due to financial misconduct and breach of fiduciary duty. The audit revealed over $15,000 in misappropriated funds. 20 neighbors had filed civil suits. Criminal charges had resulted in a plea deal. 1 year probation, full restitution, and a permanent stain on her record. They were moving. A for sale sign stood outside their home, once a symbol of power, now a monument to downfall. Neighbors now greeted me warmly. Thank you for saving our community, said Mrs. Patterson. The new board had implemented oversight. Martin was elected treasurer. Transparency replaced secrecy. The HOA was finally working for the people it served. I declined a leadership position. I preferred my role behind the scenes, advising, guiding, enjoying retirement. In the stillness of my garden, surrounded by Sarah's flowers, I whispered, "Justice has been done." A Jasper hadn't spoken to me since that day. Maybe someday, he'll understand the choice I made. Maybe not, but I stood by it. Sometimes doing the right thing means losing people you love. But truth matters more than comfort, integrity more than silence, and some lessons, they're worth the cost.